Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
The NFL is in London for one final week this year. The Jacksonville Jaguars host New England Patriots at Wembley Stadium on Sunday. You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Moores, and we'll look ahead to that game in this episode, as well as looking back on last weekend's action at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's also been a huge week in terms of news of the NFL as well, so we're out to a busy week of big transactions and more. And then we'll then turn our attention to the rest of Week 7, finishing off with a recap of last night's Thursday night football game and picking winners against the spread for the rest of the slate. And joining me to do that is one of our regular guests. It's, of course, Liam Halls, the host of the Go For Two podcast and our Full 10 Yards Ben pod. Nice to have you back on, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about some fun games. We've got a good slate this weekend as well. And like you said, it's been a busy week for news. It feels like the trades are starting to come in now, which is cool.
Yeah, it's getting to sort of silly season in season now, which is nice. We've got one hell of a slate, especially the early window. It's maybe one of the best early windows I've ever seen, which is really nice. And then we've got a nice game, which is pretty much a standalone game of the other two games in the late window as well as 4 primetime games this week on the slate as well, which is always nice. Although there is one starting at 2 a.m, which is a bit weird, but we'll get onto that later. Right, we'll start off with the game at Tottenham on Sunday. We saw the best game of Caleb Williams' young career decimate the Jags in London. An awesome day for him. I think he had 4 incompletions the whole game, and yeah, a couple of touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. The Bears head into their bye week sitting pretty at 4-2, but with 6 huge NFC North games to come. They've certainly got a very tough schedule the rest of the year. And we'll start with them. We'll go on to the Bears first before we do the Jazz, because we'll talk about them a bit more later. Because the last 2 weeks, they've had a good offense. It's been functional compared to what it was before. We're starting to see more moved on the field more. We're starting to see them score more points. The run game's opened up the last 2 games as well, which has been a big factor. The offensive line's been better as well. And the defense for the Bears has been good all year. But now they're starting to put sort of complete performances together as a team, which is what we saw on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the defense has been really good all year, but did actually have injuries as well going into that game on Sunday. So Sunday was probably the day where you felt like the depth was being tested, and they were missing 3 key starters in that game, and they still only allowed 16 points, some of that in garbage time. So I think the defense has been, like you said, great all year, and it was good to see them play well when they didn't have everyone fit, because the NFL's like, you're not going to get 11 starters on the field every week, and they had until this game, and I thought the defense looked really good. Offense looked good as well. Caleb looked really good. Dunze, I think, still finding his feet, but you could tell Keenan Allen being healthy made a difference on 3rd down. But yeah, I do think the run game, I'm not sure if it was Swift, for it's more the offensive line playing better. But the offense, the run game being better just helps, because they're not in 3rd and 9 consistently like they were in weeks 1, 2, and 3. So it looked good. I guess the caveat is they played 3 of the bottom 5 defenses in the last 3 wins. So we'll see going forward. The NFC North, you've got the top 4 teams in point differential. So 4 of the top teams in the entire NFL in one division. So I think the slate does get harder, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And they made the Jags look stupid, which I'm not sure if that's easy or hard to do nowadays, but they definitely did it, which is good.
Yeah, it's a great time for them to have a bye as well, because they've got some awesome, for us it's awesome, but some really cool and tough games coming up as well. So we're certainly going to see.
I like the post London bye as well. I think they should all take it, because it is a lot. It is a lot. I know the Jets didn't do it, but it is a lot. So I think it's a good decision from them. 4-2, have the bye week, come back. Caleb's probably only going to look better after the bye. So yeah, it's a good time for them, I think.
Well, the Jags as well. The Jags aren't taking a bye after this week, which even seems 2 weeks in London and going straight to play again is absolutely insane. But we'll see what. Just summary of the Jags season, to be honest with you. And we'll get onto that in a bit. We'll carry on with the Bears. Yeah, as you mentioned, if the defense played well, missing guys. They also had some adversity to get through in special teams as well. Their long snapper got injured halfway through the game. Cole Kmet came in and played as a long snapper. So not only was he contributing to 2 touchdowns on the field, on offense, he also had a big role in special teams as well, which is nice to see. And it's a strange game as well, just in general, because not only was it so one-sided on the field, also off it, it was really, it was the same in the crowd. It was, a sea of navy and orange. I don't think I've seen anything quite like it before in London. Like where I was sat, there was tons of Bears fans around me. It felt like a Bears home game, especially on third downs. It was really, really, really loud. And one, I'm sure the Jags weren't expecting that, and two, they really, really struggled. Yeah, because everything went wrong for them. They lost a turnover battle. Travis Etienne then went and got hurt after that as well. The receivers led the league in drops this week. Their defense absolutely stinks. And then, they let DeAndre Swift run all over them. He's had less than 2 yards per carry in quite a few games this season. And then he goes for a day like that. It's just like, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just a sign, I think, of the way these two teams are trending, to be honest, at the moment. But you do want Swift to look good. They spent some good money on him as well. So if he can look good going forward. Some of it could have been him getting used to the people that are blocking in front of him, but he didn't actually look great last year. If you look at the metrics, it was just the Eagles' offensive line was really good. So, we'll see what it looks like going forward. But this was a good test for them, and they came out and did well against Jags defense that started the season really well, and then have just kind of trended downwards as the results have gotten worse. But in terms of what you said about the atmosphere, I didn't go to this game, but on TV it came across super pro Bears. My friend Patrick, who I co-host the Go for Two pod with, he went and said how pro Bears it was, and I think I've done the first Packers game in London, the Seahawks, that Germany first ever game, the Chiefs in Germany, and they were kind of the biggest home crowds I'd seen at an international event. But even on TV you could hear this one was probably almost the most ever. It was really cool to see and to listen to.
Yeah, so as someone who went to the Packers game as well, it was a similar thing. But for this, it was
more,
it was incredible. So many fans from Chicago made the trip as well. I spoke to some, which you'll actually hear in the podcast later on. I spoke to some, and it was a really cool thing to see fans making the trip over, because again they're one of pretty much the oldest franchise in the NFL. So it's nice to see such a big fan base take the London game so seriously. Do a bit on the Jags defense before we get onto the game later on, because it's just you mentioned that it's now one of the worst defenses in the league. Caleb Williams was PFF's highest graded QB last week, despite just having 5.7 yards average depth of target, which is really hard to do because of the way that model works. It's normal, it's very rare you're going to get a very good grade with 5.7 yards average depth of target, but that was the case. And this defense, on paper in the offseason, we both raved about it in our preview pod. We thought it was great. It was great last year as well, but this coordinator change hasn't really worked. Going from Mike Colwell to Ryan Nielsen, has it?
No, I do think that's part of it, but I think it's just a mess overall, to be honest. I don't think the team are where they want to be. There seems to be an issue, I think, unfortunately, with the coach and the kind of team morale and listening to his voice, because they got 8 penalties for 43 yards. I think 5 of those 8 penalties either negated or caused a first down for the other team. And I think even if the defense has underperformed, especially in the linebacker and safety room, I think that when you've got the team, 1 fumble, 1 turnover, all those penalties, the offense had 2 3 and outs where they threw it. They ran it twice, no more than 1 yard on both their first 2 downs. I just think even though the defense isn't playing great, the overall team aren't putting each other in position to win games. So I think some of it's the DC, some of it's the talent, but I think a lot of it is just the overall team seems to be a little bit disjointed and not cohesive, because they had a good time of possession. But when you look at the first half, it was the other way around. It's just that every time they came on the field, it was like, okay, right, defense straight back on the field trying to do it again. So I think the DC and defense is an issue, but I personally do probably blame the whole picture rather than just that side.
Well, that's the thing. Moves are starting to be made they will be made as the weeks go on, the way it's going, especially if they lose this game. They moved Roy Robertson-Harris on to Seattle in the week. That's a bit weird, being in London, learning to trade into another team. I can imagine that must have been a bit weird. But he moved to Seattle to help their defensive line this week. And then it's the age of question, like, who do you fire? Whether it's Trent Baalke, who's made some strange decisions in the draft, whether it's Doug Peterson, whether it's Press Taylor first, who calls the plays for the Jags on the offense. It's just who do you think could be the first to go?
Well, I think Doug will probably go.
Really?
I think even if they win this game, he'll probably go if it's a close win, I'd imagine, because when they get back to the States. And then I think they probably fire Baalke. I would hope they fire Baalke, but they'll do that at the end of the season. It's very rare to do the GM in the middle of the season. I think they do that before they hire the new coach to make sure the new GM and new head coach are on the same page. I'd imagine they fire Doug, GM and the owner. They hope that saves the GM's job. It probably won't. And then I think, Baalke goes. And I think it's probably time just for a complete fresh start, and then go after someone like a Ben Johnson heavily in the off-season and try and fix the offense. But I also think they'll probably trade some players. I think, I think Christian Kirk is one. He's been linked to my team. I think he's a player. Travis Etienne's another one I think could get traded. And then I think on defense, they probably haven't got the ones they want to trade, but when it's maybe Devin Lloyd, who hasn't played great to start the season. I think on offense, there's a couple of guys they could move on, have a bit of a fresh start next season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I know it's like they had that one, obviously the playoff year, but the last 2 years, this team has just, especially like last 18 months or so, towards the end of last season, this team has just been dysfunctional. You can't really explain what's gone on. I think it's a time to clear house, and I'd certainly get rid of the GM and the head coach again. The way they've been coached the last 2 years, unfortunately for Doug Peterson, looks like he's probably going to lose his job as well. Before we get on to previewing a potential El Sacico for the members of the Jags staff at Wembley this week, I do have something a bit different on the podcast this week. I took a microphone up to Spurs on Sunday last week to speak to fans, asking where they came from, who they support, and why they love the sport and their team. You may even recognise a few faces as well. So have a watch of this, or listen if you're listening on pod providers. First off, can I take your name?
Gary.
And where have you come from today, Gary?
Barnsley in South Yorkshire.
Not too far compared to some Chicago fans, but
no.
And obviously you're a Bears fan.
Yeah.
What made you support the Bears?
I think a big part of it is, obviously I understood UK football, but when I started following in the 80s, my brother was a 49ers fan, so I couldn't pick 49ers. We had Auntie that lived in San Francisco, so I had to try and pick someone that I could have an argument with. At the time I'd seen sort of William Perry on TV, and that's kind of what grasped me, so that's kind of one person that sort of stuck with me and why I sort of chose Bears.
And how do you feel about the game today?
I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to kind of see when your team comes. You see a lot of other teams that maybe aren't your teams, and you still kind of come and watch. So it's nice kind of when you get a chance to kind of see your teams kind of come. So I'm hopeful of our chances. I think we're looking good for this. So yeah.
What is your favourite thing about the NFL?
Just think it's different to everything else we've got in the UK. I watch ice hockey, so I'll watch Sheffield Steelers play ice hockey. I'll watch sort of football games. I'll go to watch Barnsley games every so often. It's just a very different sort of thing. So it's not that it's niche. I think it's getting a lot of sort of more popularity, but it's just different to everything else that we've kind of got in the UK, which I think is a positive. And
for anyone that's new to the sport, why should they support the Bears?
I think if the Bears are the kind of team that's on the up, obviously a new quarterback makes a massive difference in this sport, so that's sort of big thing. They seem to have a sort of GM and hopefully an head coach that kind of know what they're doing at minutes, so I think that's a positive. So yeah, I think the option is kind of it's going to be a good few years hopefully coming. They've not had some great years, but yeah, some good years coming. I think that's the sort of positive.
Awesome, thank you very much.
No worries.
Nice to meet you, mate.
Cheers.
So I'm here with two Bears fans. Where have you come from today?
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
And how did you find the Bears, and why do you love the Bears so much?
Well, the way I come to the Bears is I was born and raised there. Always been my team.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. When I was born, he put a Bears hat on me. It was like, here you go. You know.
And how did the Bears make you feel?
Oh, elated, very excited.
When they win, I feel great. You know.
And what makes the city of Chicago so special?
Besides being born there it being a historic city, growing up there, and a lot of people like to visit because of all the arts and crafts and so forth. But that's just the history of Chicago.
The Bears make it a special city. That's what makes it special, the Bears.
And are the Bears fans the best fan base in the NFL?
Oh, yes.
By far. There's nobody better. There's nobody better.
Why?
Out of all 30, you won't see any other team show out like the Bears. That's why they had to give us the smallest stadium in the NFL. They couldn't hold us. That's why. Yeah.
Nah. How are you feeling about the game today?
Oh, I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, Caleb Williams getting better.
Yeah. Yes. I think this will be another win for us, so that's what we look forward to.
Don't be surprised when you see us in the Super Bowl, you know.
Win makes you 4-2. It's all to play for from there, but you certainly got a chance of making the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hands down.
Yeah.
Guys, can you tell me how you became NFL fans?
Well, for me, it started back in 2012. Baldy here, with Baldy the Big Fella from the Baldy and the Big Fella podcast. He always said that I'd fall in love with the beautiful game. And I said, I've already got a beautiful game in my life, and that's soccer. And he said, no, you will. And I was quite resistant against the idea. We went across to Florida, and we saw, of all the teams, it could have been the Dolphins, it could have been Tampa. We went to the Jaguars, and that was it. We saw the Jaguars get beat 31-14 against the Lions. But you know what? It was a great time, and Jags is my one and only.
Yeah, I'm actually a Raiders supporter, even though I'm stood here with a Blake Bortles colour rush shirt. I go back to the 70s. I remember seeing the Super Bowl on ITV, and loved the NFL for 10 years. Didn't really have a team, but then I went to the LA Coliseum, and my first game I saw Bo Jackson go 92 yards for a touchdown against the Cincinnati Bengals, and became a Raiders fan that day. And I actually love the NFL as much as I love any one team, which is why I can get away with wearing different shirts. I know it doesn't go down very well in the NFL community, but yeah, that's me.
And what makes the NFL so special to play for you?
It's 24/7. There is just so much going on. We've been here for 4 hours and we've just had a blast, and we haven't even seen the game yet. I mean, we've just been speaking to friends, just been soaking in the atmosphere, chatting to people. It's just been such a good day. And afterwards, we've still got a whole lot of games to watch tonight. So yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing thing to follow.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the comparison between English soccer and American football is completely different. I think the Americans do sport a whole lot better than us. They're more patriotic than us. They try and bring the experience of the NFL to England, and if anything, it kind of shows us as soccer fans what we're missing. So I just think it's a brilliant occasion, and like what Baldy said, it's not just about the game, it's about everything else.
Instant time for the Jags now. You're still a fan. What makes the Jags so special and their fans so special?
I think it's the underdog. The Jags have never really been successful in all of the years I've followed them. Last year, I think we came close. I was hoping for big things this year. Great pre-season, if I'm honest. 4-0, yeah. And then it's just really, after the Miami game, we played well against Miami, but it's just not gone well. So I think Jacksonville appeals to me. Always fighting for the underdog. Hopefully it'll come good today.
So, Bears, Jaguars at Wembley. How do you guys feel the game will go today?
Well, me and the Big Fella, we fell out on Friday night on our own podcast, episode 58 of Baldy and the Big Fella. Despite wearing this, I'm predicting the Bears 31, Jags 10. Although in my heart, for this Big Fella, I desperately want the Jags to win.
And for me, it's all about the quarterbacks, which quarterback shows up. I think, obviously, everyone's expecting big things from Williams today for the Bears. For me, Lawrence has got to show up, but I'm still thinking 24-17 to the Jags.
Attention now turns to the third and final London game, where the 1-5 Jags welcome the 1-5 Patriots to their second home, Wembley Stadium. Both teams are coming off losses. We've just recapped the Jags loss to the Bears, whilst the Pats lost at home to Houston in what was Drake May's first start. The number 2 overall pick will now play internationally in his second start, where the Patriots will fancy themselves against one of the league's worst defences. You're one of May's biggest advocates in the draft process. What did you see from him in his first start?
Yeah, I thought he looked quite good, especially passing down the field. Kind of managed to negate and move out of sack positions as well. And he's definitely going to need to do that because the offensive line is bad and seems to lose a starter every week in the first quarter. But yeah, he looked good, kind of negating pressure. He didn't let the pressure get to him throughout the game. He played the same in the first quarter as he probably did in the fourth, which I think is a good sign when you're constantly under pressure. But yeah, he did everything I thought he would do, kind of didn't have to read too much from a defensive perspective because of the score. The Texans didn't need to throw loads at him. But they did blitz him quite a bit, and he moved away from some of those pockets and, moved and threw down the field. So, I think he looked good, bearing in mind the pressure he was under. I think when you're under that level of pressure, there's a chance that the third and fourth quarter just become a complete disaster. But fortunately for him, that didn't happen. So, I thought it was a really good first start, bearing in mind he's a rookie with, maybe Spencer Rattler's got it worse at the moment, but he's arguably got the worst situation around him. So, I was impressed in his first start.
Yeah, and that makes an interesting battle coming up because the Patriots' offensive line has been terrible. Obviously, it's the one reason why I was sort of precarious to start in May. I said it in the podcast last week. But they're going up against this Jags defense, which again is one of the worst in the league. I think it is the worst against the pass. And the Jags defensive line, which has got a lot of money spent on it, is not really producing what it should be when you look at how much has been invested in it. It's strange. We mentioned the defense earlier. They've got the second lowest blitz rate, 23rd in pressures per drop back, slightly better against the run, which is what was disappointing last week because they were good against the run, and last week they go and let the Bears run all over them. That's the theme of this game really, just big bounce back opportunities for a lot of units because a lot of units on these two teams have sucked this year.
Yeah, these are two probably the worst teams I think in the AFC. In terms of how they've played. So, it'll be... I think this game could be anything, but I think there'll be some sloppy football when you've got units that are struggling. Even the special teams for both these two teams have had some weird moments and some good moments. Duvernay's had some good moments to the Jags. But, I think it could be a game that's a little bit all over the place. It's probably going to be quite exciting for the fans that go to watch the game. But I don't think we're going to see much sound, kind of well-designed football. I think it's going to be errors leading to big plays probably on both sides.
Yeah, and with the Jags, this is you'd like to think that are going against this Patriots defense, which has been ran all over, and the Jags struggle to run the football this year. And but the Patriots defense also in the secondary hasn't been what we really thought it would be this year, compared to obviously with Bill and everything. It's a good opportunity for them to at least try and get some sort of level of acceptable offense because the noise to fire Press Taylor is getting louder and louder, as well as Doug Peterson. But I think if Doug is to keep his job, he may be the scapegoat. I think he has to call a good game, otherwise he go, and if he doesn't go, I think Doug goes. I think we're on the same lines as well. Obviously, despite there's a lot of noise, despite all that, the problem here clearly isn't Trevor Lawrence, is it? Issues like failing to address the offensive line, which the last 2 years they've not really failed to. They've not really addressed the offensive line at all. Are way more important. It's just I think Lawrence gets a lot of stick. He wasn't even that bad last week, was he?
No, it wasn't that bad last week. I would say I'm normally a Trevor defender, probably too much. But I'd say, since that Texans game, second half of the Texans game, I would say he's not been great. So I do think, some of the team issues, the offensive line, the run game, Press Taylor calling the plays, which is what Doug's decided to go with, I think is causing a lot of the problems, but I would say he's not played his best. But I would think in the second half of last week's game, he was let down by his teammates. There was 3 or 4 big drops in that second half. I think he had a quite bad second quarter before halftime, and then he came out and played a lot better. But he was let down. So I agree with you. He's not, the problem. There's probably 4 or 5 problems ahead of him, but he does need to play better. But like you said, he needs people around him to help him play better. We'll see if that happens this week. It's a good team to go against, isn't it? But I think if they play well this week, it's not like anyone's going to be thinking they've turned the corner. So.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, as mentioned, the Pats defense has been disappointing lately. Evan Ingram is a week healthier as well. He came back for the first time last week, and obviously he was one of Lawrence's favourite guys to throw to before he got hurt. Travis Etienne sounds like he'll play as well, which is good for them after he went out of the game last week. They're starting to see some things from Tank Bigsby as well. We thought we'd see that last year, then he fumbled it all the time last year, so he didn't really get much play time after that. But there are signs that he could be a very good option for them at running back. But it is certainly a strange situation, and with Lawrence as well, like, as I mentioned last week. As mentioned earlier, as you just mentioned as well, the Jags had the most drops in the league last week as well. So had a couple of those key third downs been converted, maybe it could. I mean, they probably were still lost, but it could have been a very different story. But they just had a very poor season, just fundamentally, and that's been a huge issue for them this year. Right, it's now time to pick this game. The Jags are favored by 5.5 going into it. And it's a tough one to pick because I do think the Jags will win this game, but that spread is tough because the Patriots are, although they're not very talented, there are elements of them that are very well coached. Maybe not on the offensive side of the ball, but there are some elements that I do like about this Patriots team, and especially like in the game against Miami last 2 weeks ago. They on special teams they made plays. They had a block punt, a block field goal. Like they it's sort of what the Patriots would always do. I think so. There is signs that there's maybe a little bit better coach than the Jags. So yeah, the spread is tough. I'm gonna pick the Jags to cover there just because I thought they have to win. If they don't win this game, it's chaos for Jacksonville. So I think because of that reason, I'm gonna pick the Jags to cover that 5.5 point spread.
Yeah, he's definitely fired if they don't win this game, for sure. But yeah, I picked the Jags to cover the spread as well. I picked them a lot of times this season though, so they're definitely I don't know what the word is, but a bit of a voodoo team for me that I seem to pick more often than I should. But yeah, I would just pick them because I do think the offense has a lot more talent. It's the most talented side of the ball, I think, in this game. Patriots defense against the run hasn't been as good as it should have been. They done okay against the pass, but Christian Gonzalez had his worst game last week, so I'll be interested to see if he bounces back. But yeah, I think they'll win and cover. But yeah, it would be quite cool to see Drake May go toe for toe and we get a bit of a shootout. But I think with how bad the offensive line is and how bad they are against the run, I just think the Jags could probably win this by a touchdown or 10 points, something like that.
Yeah, not the best game to end the London games. We've had two sort of at least entertaining games before that, so especially the first one. But at least we're getting football in London, and there are going to be a lot of Jags fans there on Sunday as well. I think this is the first time that there has been more than 60 or 70% UK fans for a London game. So we're certainly going to be a very UK heavy crowd, which would be nice to see how that crowd reacts to this game. Right, let's get on to the news for the week because we've had some trades, we've had some strange benchings and things this week, so we'll get on to the news. And we'll start with those two blockbuster trades that we saw on Tuesday, with both the Jets and the Bills adding receivers after Monday Night Football battle, which was won by the Bills in New York. The Jets narrowly lost that game, probably should have won the game to be fair. They had 2 missed field goals, a few more key drops, and that's what prompted them to trade for Davante Adams overnight. Aaron Rodgers said that he learned of the trade about midnight, so about a couple hours after the game was played. And the Bills then added a receiver of their own in Amari Cooper from the Browns. Both of these were third-round picks. Of their offense stood the past few weeks as well. We'll start with the Jets. There's been a lot of talk about this trade for what seems like a year now. Davante Adams is finally back with Aaron Rodgers. He is finally a Jet. But the team is 2-4. It's fired as head coach and is on its second offensive play caller. For me, this is just one last big desperation move for Joe Douglas, the GM, to save his job.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's another sign, isn't it, about Aaron Rodgers, having a big influence on the team. Mm-hmm. But I would still say it's a very good trade. Like, regardless of who's the reasons behind doing it, I think they'd be stupid not to, because he's still a top 10 receiver in the NFL. I think I saw someone in one of my group chats talking about, lack of separation, but I just don't think that's true. If you look at some of the grades and some of the separation marks, he's not, 99 percentile anymore, but he's in the 85 to 90 percentile of that, and he's very good at one-on-one against people in man coverage and jump balls, etc. So, yeah, there's definitely motive behind it. Aaron Rodgers' friend, Mike Williams, getting thrown under the bus, which is funny. And then Joe Douglas probably trying to save his job. And again, the head coach who's interim is going to sign off anything, right? Because he just wants to stay and probably be the head coach next year. So, yeah, there's reasons behind it, but I think it's a very good trade. The middle class of the AFC is the weakest it's been in a while. And I think they feel like they could get the 7th seed. And, you've got Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams, Breece Hall against anyone in the playoffs. They'll feel like they can score enough points to win a game anywhere, even if it's at Arrowhead or in Baltimore. So, yeah, I think it's a very good trade, but yeah, you are right. I think there's certain motives behind them doing it.
Yeah, and the points has been the issue, really, because going into the game last week, they had the same amount of points that they had a year before, and that was without Aaron Rodgers. So certainly the offense has been dysfunctional. The offensive line's been weird because it's been great at points and then terrible at other points. It's like it's been a really weird unit to watch this year. So we'll see how that develops.
Tyron Smith's not playing as well as he has, but it feels like the rest of the line are probably playing better than people thought they would. But yeah, Tyron Smith's not playing to that level. But yeah, it seems to be week in, week out. It changes with that.
And that really doesn't help for the consistency on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, no, they've got some tough games coming up. A lot of teams sort of in and around the playoff picture coming up. They've got to play Miami twice. They've got to play Buffalo again, of course, as well. So they certainly have got some games where you can make an impact and rise up the AFC standings. So not ruling out of it by any means, but they do need to win their upcoming games, because if they lose a couple more games, then the season's over, and they're stuck with Davante Adams for 2 more years after restructuring his contract. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think next season they're still going to be good. I think Rodgers and Adams will probably play.
Do you think Rodgers will play? Do you think that's
I would imagine so, yeah. Especially if Davante's there. 1 more year. So I think for me it's like an 18-month thing where they think, right, yeah, Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, like I said, the 2 running backs as well. So that's what I think it's going to be for, but we'll see. You can never fully know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. But yeah, it's quite funny for Davante Adams if he gets traded to the Saints. To the Raiders, and then his best mate leaves. He gets forced out a year later. Then he gets traded to the Jets for his next best mate, and then if he leaves after half a season, then I think Davante Adams is going to be pretty annoyed. I think he's probably got some assurances that Rodgers is going to play 1 more year, but we'll see. But I think it's a good trade. It's probably a win-win for both teams because the Raiders just need to cut bait, I think, and move on.
Yeah, if that did happen, you've got to say you have to feel bad for Davante Adams, but I mean, we'll see how his usage comes up. But obviously, Khan knows the offense anyway, so hopefully he can step back in and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, the offense was a lot better on that Monday night game, which is at least something positive for the Jets to see. Is that you probably should have won that game because 2 missed field goals. If those go your way, then you are 3-3, and the season's looking a lot better.
Yeah, they could definitely win that game, and it did look better. And we'll see what it looks like. Alan Lazard will be wide receiver 3 now, which fits his role a bit better. So I think there'll be more of a comfortable offense, and Gary Wilson might grow with Rodgers as time goes on. Gary Wilson's always been a bit of a free spirit, so he doesn't run the exact route that people want him to, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't like people that doesn't run the exact routes. But I think if that he comes in as number 1, Davante, Gary Wilson's your number 2, probably plays in the slot a lot more. I think that'll just make life a bit easier for everyone.
Yeah, you could tell where I was sat for the Jets game 2 weeks ago in London. You could see Rodgers getting more and more frustrated with Wilson and Williams, especially when there was a couple right in front of us where he just missed. By a couple of inches, and you can just see the frustration growing. So we'll see how that develops now that he's got a guy he can trust at receiver. Because we thought Wilson would be that guy, but he was it was billed to be that, but it's not been the case. As for Buffalo, again, this Cooper trade was needed too, because as film has been gathered on this offense as they played better teams. It hasn't been the same. The last 3 games are 26th in the league in offense. The line has been bad. Allen has been the 3rd most precious quarterback in those 3 games, and they've had a few drops too, which is it makes all the sense in the world with all those things. Bringing in Cooper now. Now they're probably going to win division. Where do you think Cooper could take this team a little bit further than that? Do you think it could be like? Do you think the Bills could get to where they used to get him, like championship game?
Yeah, I think the championship game is going to be the Bills and the Chiefs. That's how good I think the Bills are. Everyone loves the Ravens. I still like the Ravens, but I just think the Bills were already really good. I think the concussion game was its own game for Josh Allen. And the Ravens game, they were down so early, they can't play the offense they want to play. They want to run the football with Allen and the running backs. And when you're down like 17-3, you can't run the football, and that is when Josh Allen's worst traits come out, because he wants to start being a bit more of a hero ball player than maybe he should be. And I think adding someone who can get open helps Shakir go back to being the slot guy. He doesn't have to play outside anymore. I think for them, they're going to be in the final. I think the final 4 teams in the AFC, they're going to be one of those 4 teams. But I think without Cooper, I would struggle to see them beating, the Ravens and the Chiefs, or Texans and the Chiefs, or Ravens and the Texans. I don't think they could have beaten 2 of those without this trade. Whereas now, I think there's an argument they could do that. And I think the defense has got to play better though. It's very injured, so when they're all back, I think that's going to be key. But I think this offense now will probably finish as a top 5, 6, 7 offense in the NFL again.
Yeah, he certainly fits the way he's he's very good at getting open, which certainly fits the offense they want to play. And as you mentioned, the defense, they got Teron Johnson, probably one of their best players, back last week. He made a play in that game as well. So as they get healthier, as Matt Milano comes back, hopefully we'll see, because they've had good games, they've had bad games at defense. It's been very one game they're great, one game they're bad. So it's like the Jets offensive line. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the Bills are a big game for them this week. We'll see how they go on throughout the so they go on throughout the season. But this what's it called? This trade is what he needed to do, and they're one of the teams that scare. If I'm the Texans, if I'm the Ravens, certainly the run game with James Cook, obviously he missed the game on Monday, but they're one of the things that would scare me, because if they can do multiple things on offense, they can win games in different ways. Obviously, Josh Allen's a big factor in that. And like they were with Stephon Diggs, if they can get to some sort of level, then the way this AFC has been, you alluded to it earlier, then I certainly think the Bills have got a shot at going far. Okay, the final bit of news. It looks like we could see an interesting quarterback change this week, as Russell Wilson is taking first-team snaps for Pittsburgh ahead of their Sunday Night Football game against Aaron Rodgers' Jets. The Steelers are 4-2 ahead of this game, and they won against the Raiders last week. But they're going for a quarterback change. Obviously, of course, Russell Wilson was starter on the training camp depth charts before he got hurt early in camp. The injury is worse than expected, so he's only just started fully practicing for the first time last week. But it's an interesting one, because obviously Fields' start of this year looked pretty good. The last 2 weeks the offense has stalled, so now it's got to a situation where they're at a bit of a crossroads, and they have gone for Russell Wilson. We may see both of them suit up at points. We'll see how this offense looks, which could be quite exciting. But obviously, I understand the move, but you can't help feeling it's a little bit unfair for Fields.
Yeah. I don't know if I understand the move, but there's some bias. I don't like Russell Wilson. I think he's bad. And I think Justin Fields is good. I just think he had a bad game last week, but they still won, right? How many times have we watched our quarterbacks or the teams we've supported have a bad game, and the next week is different? I think he's only had one bad performance. He's thrown one pick all year. They didn't have a lot of weapons, right? And I think the idea that we're on 3rd and 6, I drop back, I've got no one open, but I can scramble and get that first down, and hopefully the next set downs goes better. I think that is the benefit that Justin Fields gives you, whereas Russell Wilson, that's a sack on 3rd and 6. That's how I feel about him. So I think it's a weird move for this team as well. He kind of Tomlin preaches about accountability and winning and doing the right things. I think it's very strange for him to change a winning quarterback when they're 4-2. I think it made more sense if he was healthy last week when they lost that game to the Colts. But I wouldn't have done it personally. But Tomlin does like experienced veteran players, and he probably thinks the passing game could go up a notch. But I just think what you lose with the movement could lead to more sacks, more 3 and outs. Less converting those long 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 8s. I wouldn't have done it, but I don't really like Russell Wilson, so I'm probably biased.
No, I completely agree with you. I think Fields gives them a better chance to win. That extra element with the running the football and everything certainly is a big factor. It's just strange, but obviously I do understand it. We'll see how it looks, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Fields back in as a starter should it go south, because again, the offensive line's banged up. You mentioned that they don't have any weapons. Like Ross Wilson in that situation, we've seen that in Denver. That doesn't really fill me with much confidence whatsoever. So should they lose games, maybe we'll see him switch. But yeah, it for me, I do feel quite bad for Fields. Right, before we go on to pick the games for a tasty Week 7 slate, we must first recap Thursday Night Football, the game from last night where the Broncos demolished the Saints in Sean Payton's return to New Orleans. Denver were 33-10 winners, but in truth it could have been more. They were in control of this game from minute one of this game, and if it wasn't for the Saints defense standing tough, in the red zone on third down, this could have got ugly because they forced into 4 field goals. That's 16 points there left on the table. So it could have been a 50-burger for the Broncos in this game. It's just a strange one. Like Bo Nix made some good plays and made some bad plays. There's one throw where he missed 2 open receivers and hit the ground, which was confusing. I don't understand how that play is made. But again, with his legs and movement, he certainly extended drives for the Broncos, and again, it helped them win this game. Although you wouldn't know from the stat sheet that the Broncos completely dominated, trust me, they did. The Saints had nothing, and it's because they ran for 225 yards. They averaged 6.4 yards per carry. It's hardly surprised they did win this game when you look at how many players the Saints are missing. But regardless of that, the Broncos are starting to put together these wins now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think this one might be more about how the Saints are than the Broncos. But it's nice to see Javonte Williams in particular look better after all the injury problems that he's had. It's still not really a real NFL offense, but they're somehow finding ways to win games through running the football, sound defense, kind of turnovers. They've been very good at getting the ball back, forcing fumbles, forcing interceptions. So the defense looks legit. The offense won't be good enough to beat any good team, I don't think. But the Saints probably aren't a good team. I think anyone that was wary after 2 weeks of crowning them really good, I think, look good at now. Anyone that was cautious about that looks really good, because through injuries and kind of teams, not having 17-point leads in the first quarter, you could just tell the Saints just aren't as good as what people thought they were. But yeah, for the Broncos to even score 33 is very impressive. I know the defense and special teams did most of the lifting, but yeah, it's a big win for them. It's just, I think this says more about the Saints probably going forward than the Broncos, and the Saints need to get the offensive line and weapons healthy ASAP, or else Spencer Rattler's going to be in a really difficult position.
Yeah, and that's a defense without Patrick Surtain, of course, their best player. He missed this game through a concussion as well, so certainly a good sign that they can play well without him. The Saints, I mean, if they're the talk of the league in early September, but they've now lost 5 straight games. The season is going south really quickly. The offensive line was a big factor to their offense, because we thought the offensive line would be terrible. They came out the first 2 games they were really good. Then Eric McCoy got injured, their key center. Then Cesar Ruiz got injured. Then the offensive line got bad. Then Derek Carr got hurt. And the defense has started missing loads of tackles recently as well. So when you pair all that in, it's the sort of Saints we saw the last couple of years where they don't look very well coached, they don't look very well talented. And this is how we expected the Saints to look. But at least they got 2 weeks at the start of the season where they were brilliant.
Yeah, they'll remember those 2 weeks, I'm sure. But the whole division is probably better than they thought as well, so it's not looking good for them going forward. But I think they just want to get people healthy and then see what they've got in Spencer Rattler. But yeah, it's not looking good. I had Dennis Allen, my first coach, fired. The first 2 weeks delayed that, but I feel like it'd be time to move on from him as well. So going back to what we said about Doug Peterson, I just think this probably is his last year if things carry on the way they are.
Yeah, and we'll see. Obviously, Rattler's got, I think they say he's got 3 or 4 games because Carr's injury is worse than it was first thought. So we'll see how he goes in that stretch. But it's a shame for Derek Carr because he was playing some great football before the offensive line got hurt, and then he still plays some great football after that, but not to the same level. I think he'll get a starting job somewhere else. We'll see. Rattler, is he the future? Is he not? We'll see. What did you think of him? Not really this week, but the week before.
Yeah, I thought he was really good for what he's got. It was just obvious that Todd Bowles kind of realised at some point I'm just going to have to just throw loads of pressure at him and the offensive line won't be able to cope, and that's exactly what happened. But before that, he looks really good. He's still doing the thing that he's always done where he thinks he's more athletic than he is, so he'll step out of a pocket and think he's got loads of space like a Allen or a Mahomes, and then he'll immediately get sacked from behind. He's not quite that level of athlete. But yeah, in terms of reading the defenses, he's got a very strong arm, got the throw out early. He's very good. Even last night on play action, when he didn't get sacked, which happened like 3 times on play action, he looked pretty good. So yeah, I think he looked as good as you think a 5th rounder could look. I just think they need to probably support him, but I think they've got a few weeks now to try and see what they've got in him before they go back to Derek Carr, because I think, Derek Carr's contract's here for another year, but that's a player they could trade to a QB needy team if they want to. So yeah, I thought he looked fine, but last night you can't really tell much, to be honest, of how bad the line and the weapons played.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next season, but certainly something to be excited about if you're a Saints fan, because on offense they've not really had much to be excited about the last couple of years. So yeah, certainly something there. Right, we'll get on to picking the rest of the Week 7 slate now against the spread. Obviously, we've just done the London game, so we'll start with the first game on the early window. The Falcons host the Seahawks. The Falcons are favored by 2.5 points. I'm going to pick the Falcons to cover that spread. I've been really impressed with their offense actually the last couple of weeks, especially Kirk Cousins. Like, he's playing pretty good football right now. He leads the league in game-winning drives. He's winning in prime time as well, which Kirk has not always done. So there are certainly are some exciting things on this Falcons offense. They're getting some players involved more than they did under Arthur Smith as well. And the Seahawks defense had a great start, but the last couple of weeks it's not really been the same. Again, they're really injured on that defense at the minute. So yeah, give me the Falcons to cover this game.
Yeah, I think it's quite a fun game. And probably a hard game to pick for me, to be honest. But yeah, the Falcons have definitely played way better in the last few weeks. The offense looks really good. Defensive line's still bad, but the secondary's playing really well. And the Seahawks started the season great on both ends and have kind of slowly gone backwards, especially on defense. But I'm going to pick, I think, the Seahawks at home plus 2.5. I think their offense can still score loads of points against the Falcons' defense, but I do think it'll be a close game. But I'll just take the points in a close one.
Awesome. We'll go on to the Bills now. They host the Titans. The Bills are 8.5 point favourites against the 1-4 Titans. This is an interesting one because it's a huge spread, but the Titans. All the Titans games have been 1-score games, pretty much. They've been in games. Will Levis turnovers aside, they probably will have a winning record by now. So I certainly think they'll be in this game. So I'm going to pick them to come within the spread, but I do think that the Bills are going to win.
Yeah, this line keeps moving up as well. I think I'll probably put the Bills to win and Bills to cover. But it is a hell of a spread. But the Bills, they tend to do better against the worst teams. They won't just beat them by 5 like the Chiefs will. They'll beat them by 25. So I'll go for the Bills in this one, and I'm sure we'll get another Will Levis meme on Twitter, which will be fun.
Okay, we'll go over to Cleveland now. The Browns host the Bengals. The Bengals are 4.5 point favourites on the road, which just shows how Cleveland's season has gone. I don't think we've seen that fair by that much going into this game. But with the way it's certainly going to be an interesting battle with the terrible Bengals defensive line going against the terrible Browns offensive line. So we'll see how that goes. But with everything that the Browns have put together on offense compared to everything that the Bengals have put together on offense this year, it may be a fun game to watch. AFC North games don't really tend to be; they just tend to be competitive. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Bengals to win this game just because they're a better team than the Browns, and I think they are going to cover the 4.5 point spread away.
Oh yeah, this is another hard one. The spread is actually going up as well. It's like 6.5.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, if we're doing 4.5, then I'll pick the Bengals. But yeah, I wouldn't bet them at the current spread. I just think it's a big number. And if Amari Cooper was playing, I might go the other side. But the Browns' offense is already bad with not much there. But we'll see if Nick Chubb, I think he might come back as the rumours and play in this game. So we'll see. But yeah, I'll pick the Bengals. But it wouldn't shock me if there was an upset on the spread in this game. But I think the Bengals will win the game regardless.
Yeah, certainly 2 mismatches there. Bengals defensive line against the Browns offensive line, and then you've got on the other hand, you've got the Bengals who can't stop the run against the Browns who will like to run the football. So we'll see how that game goes. Okay, we'll go over to Green Bay now. The Packers host the Texans. The Packers are 2.5 point favourites at home, which pretty much shows you that it's a toss-up if they're 2.5-point favourites at home. This is tough, isn't it? The Packers...
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the Texans to come within 2. They've impressed me the last couple of weeks. That they've not been great against the spread, which is why it's really hard picking against the Texans. I think they're 1-4 against the spread, or something like that, 1-5 against the spread this year. So they've certainly let sort of bettors down on that aspect. But I like the Packers, but I just feel like I'm going to pick the Texans just because I've just got a feeling the defense has played pretty well recently. That's been a nice surprise, and hopefully they can get the run game going. But fascinating game because this Packers defense is creating a lot of turnovers and struggled. The last time they played defense like this, struggled against Minnesota. But I'm liking what I'm seeing with the Texans week on week now.
Yeah, this is a hard spread to cover. Both these two teams are now starting to play better. It's quite funny on third down, which is money down. CJ Stroud's playing really well. They've got their 5th in DVOA. On first and second down, they're 26th. On scripted plays, they're 10th in DVOA. On non-scripted, they're 28th. So the offense has been really weird. Bear in mind they've got great players. So I think I'm going to lean Packers in this game because I think the Packers started to play really well. And my preseason thoughts were they'd be really, really good. And then they had a bit of a weird start with the Jordan Love injury. So yeah, I'll go Packers, but I'm hoping this game is a crazy shootout and it's back and forth and we can all enjoy watching it in the early stage.
Yeah, this is one of the games that I'm really, really excited to watch. First Sunday, I've been able to watch the early window as well because the last 2 weeks I've been travelling back from London. So yeah, it's nice to sit and watch an early window as well because they're certainly had the best games the last couple of weeks. Okay, we'll go over to Indianapolis now, where the Colts host the Dolphins. The Colts are 3.5-point favourites against the Dolphins. The Dolphins coming off their bye week as well. I'm going to pick Miami to certainly cover this, but I think they probably could win this game as well because they found the run game in the game against the Patriots. They've got all 3 running backs, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert healthy, and the Colts cannot stop the run or the pass. But I got a feeling that the Dolphins they found something on offense last time. They've had a bye week as well, and the Colts with Anthony Richardson as well don't really convince me. If this is Joe Flacco, I feel differently, but Richardson is getting the start for this game, so I am going to go for the Dolphins to cover and maybe even win this game. Sorry, to come within 3.
Yeah, I would like Flacco if I was betting the Colts. This is a tough one. I'll probably go for the Colts. I think it's the most differences we've had through 5 games. I'll go for the Colts. I just think they're overall a better team, and even though Anthony Richardson's struggling, I think he's better than the quarterback that's going to be playing on the other end. So I'll still go for Anthony Richardson and the Colts. But this could be a very weird game. This could be 10-8, or it could be 38-35, it feels like. So, this should be a fun one to watch for the neutral. But yeah, I'll go for the Colts, but there's not much confidence behind this pick as the other ones.
If the Dolphins do win this game, then they're back at 500 with Tua likely coming back next week as well. So certainly a hope for them. But if they do lose this game, then it's a bit difficult for them. So it's certainly a big game in that aspect. So we're talking of big games, a huge game in the NFC North, the game of the week, of course. The Vikings hosting the Lions. Vikings 1.5-point favourites, obviously still unbeaten against the Lions. Now, if the Lions had Aiden Hutchinson in this game, I probably would pick the Lions, but they probably would be favoured, I'd imagine. But I'm going to pick the Vikings just because their defence can confuse guys, and Jared Goff, he's been up and down at points this season. The run game has been great for the Lions, and I would pick, if this is in Detroit, I'd pick the Lions. But no, I'm going to roll with Minnesota just because it's in Minnesota, and 1.5-point spread, it's a toss up, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Lions because they're probably the best team, I think, in the NFC. It might be between them and the Packers eventually. I think when you've got the chance to pick the Lions as an underdog, you're only going to get that 2 or 3 times a season max at the moment with how well they're playing. I think Hutchinson's a big loss, especially in this game. But it is Sam Darnold. He's playing well, but he's playing well for him. He's not playing well for Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, etc., etc. So I'll go for the Lions. I think they can run the ball on the Vikings, which is going to be key. And I think the other way is more about just being sound on defense and stopping Justin Jefferson having loads of huge plays, which I think the Lions can do. I think the Lions win a shootout in this one.
Okay, the last game of the early window sees the Giants host their division rival Eagles. It's the first time that Saquon Barkley will return to MetLife Stadium. The Eagles are 3.5-point favourites on the road, and I'm going to pick them to cover as well. Now, had the Giants had Andrew Thomas in this game, which has gone down for the year, the way their offense has started playing and the way their defense has been playing this year, I might have fancied the Giants to certainly come within the spread. But without Thomas on the offensive line, it doesn't really convince me. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Eagles to cover. But I think this game could be really fun because the Giants have started playing some decent football recently.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Eagles as well. Still not a big fan of Nick Sirianni, but the team's just so much better than the Giants. Giants have been playing better football in general, but then it just feels like everything is a struggle on offense still. I know Malik Neighbors might be back for this game, but I think the Eagles should win this game by touchdown plus. And we'll see. If he doesn't, we could hear some Sirianni rumblings, which would be quite exciting for someone who doesn't.
Yeah, I don't trust them. I don't trust them whatsoever. But I have pitted against them quite a few times on the segment on the podcast recently. I don't trust them. But against a banged up Giants team, it's hard not to pick them. Okay, we're going to the late window now. Only 3 games on the late window. We've got 2 at 9:05, and then the Chiefs-Niners game at 9:25. We'll start with the Rams hosting the Raiders. Now this game has got no star power in it in pretty much whatsoever.
Cooper Kupp's back.
Yeah, Cooper. I know what. Yeah, but compared to what it could be, it certainly isn't. Isn't exciting whatsoever. But the Rams are favored by 5.5 points at home. I'm going to pick them to cover that just because I feel like they're a well-coached team, and I don't really feel the same about the Raiders, if I'm being honest. Give me the Rams to cover. But yeah, this game could be way more exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Same. Give me the Rams. Got Aiden O'Connell and a coach I don't think is very good. Whereas, the Rams have still got Stafford, they've still got McVay, they've got Kyron Williams, and they should have Cooper Kupp. So I just think they'll be able to score enough points, even though Crosby's probably going to have a good day against the offensive line. I think they'll be able to score enough points to win this game by more than the line. So give me the Rams. And they need to win. There's some people would say they're already out of it, but they need to win this game if they want to stay in it, and I think they will. Yeah,
certainly. And I do think they'll pick up games towards the end of the season. They've certainly got wins in division as well, which is really crucial for them, the way that division's gone. So get another win, and the Rams certainly are still in it. The Panthers aren't. Unfortunately, their season's over, and they go to Washington to play the Commanders. The Commanders are 7.5-point favourites. It feels weird saying that. It doesn't, when was the last time Washington was 7.5-point favourites? Like, it's got to be a while ago. With the way that team's been playing, with the way the Panthers have been playing, even with Andy Dalton, they've not been great. So I'm going to pick the Commanders and cover this spread, but I think this game could be weird. It's a team that can run the ball loads against a team that's actually not bad against the run. It's a team that aren't bad against the pass. It might that's how against the pass. We may see Daniels air it out more, which could be fun.
Yeah, what did you say the spread was that you've got for this one?
7.5.
It is a lot, but I am going to pick the Commanders. I don't think the Panthers defense can stop them. But yeah, there's always 2 or 3 games that are weird. I feel like Colts Dolphins is going to be weird. This game's probably going to be weird. So I'll go for the Commanders. I do think they'll win the game regardless. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a backdoor cover, late touchdown from Dalton. I'll go for the Commanders to cover the spread.
Okay, the big game in the late window, the Niners host the Chiefs. The Niners are 1.5-point favourites against the 5-0 unbeaten Chiefs. This is interesting. This is a tough one. I'm gonna pick the Niners. Well, like their season really needs to get going now. Even though it's Andy Reid off a bye, which is scary. I feel it's weird picking against Andy Reid off a bye. I just feel like the Niners need this win more, and the Chiefs, again, as banged up as they are, missing so many players, I think the Niners will win this game, but I'm not confident coming with Andy Reid off a bye.
Yeah, well, it's one of the smallest spreads, isn't it? So it should be the hardest game to pick. I'm going to pick the Chiefs, similar to the Lions. To be honest, I said this on the Betting Podcast. When you've got maybe the 2 teams that are favoured from fans' perspective, maybe the Ravens are now, but to make the Super Bowl, and they're both underdogs. I think you have to kind of relish to pick the underdog in that scenario. Mahomes is 11-1 of a favorite of an underdog of less than 4 points. I think he's 13-2 as being an underdog all time. So yeah, I'm going to pick that, but it would not surprise me if the 49ers win. They've got good firepower, obviously, that can put the Chiefs behind the 8 ball and then struggle to catch up. But yeah, I think the Chiefs will want to come out and kind of lay their marker on offense after the bye week, and then we'll see what happens towards the trade deadline. But yeah, I think this should be a fun game. I don't want to see no 13-10 here. Let's just have a 30-27 to someone, like a bit more of an entertaining game between these two teams.
Yeah, this is certainly one I have my eyes on compared to the rest of the late window. I might even watch it just on its own, to be honest with you. We'll
it's
see.
a Sky game, obviously, isn't it?
Just watch that. I think that might be the case. And we'll go on to Sunday Night Football, where the Steelers host the Jets. We talked about this game a little bit earlier on. The Steelers are 1.5 point favourites. I'm going to pick the Jets to win this game. I just feel like they need to win this game. If the Jets don't win this game, then they're in trouble. And again, 1.5 point spread is just who you want to win the game, and I'm going to pick the Jets.
Yeah, same. Definitely going to pick the Jets. Rodgers v Wilson. I think if this was Fields, I think I'd maybe go the other way. But yeah, I'd go for the Jets. I think Devonta Adams probably has a big first game playing for the Jets.
Nice. And then we'll go over to the 2 Monday Night Football games. The main one on ESPN sees the Bucs host the Ravens. This is one hell of a game. I wish this was in that late window, to be honest with you. But certainly is a fun Monday Night Football game. The Bucs are 3.5 point underdogs at home. The Ravens obviously favoured on the road. And then with the way the Ravens have been playing the last couple weeks, I'm gonna pick them, and I'm gonna pick them to cover as well. But I'm not going to count on the Bucs in this game because the offensive line aside, this team has been really good, and Baker Mayfield's playing probably the best football I've ever seen him play before. But that Ravens defense going against this Bucs offense, I just going to pick the Ravens, I think. But this could be a dark horse Super Bowl matchup. I really wouldn't be surprised to see the Bucs get into the NFC Championship game.
Hot take, I like it.
I like them.
I think their offensive line actually is playing well, apart from one position. So, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to pick the Bucs to cover 3.5. I do think the Ravens could win the game. Wouldn't surprise me if they win by a field goal and they win the game. But with the 3.5, I'll pick the Bucs. Ravens defense has not been great against the middle of the field against the pass. Baker Mayfield's got Cade Otton, Godwin, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving, who he throws to all the time in the middle of the field. And then he's got Mike Evans. Probably against Marlon Humphrey, I'd guess, on the outside, which I think Mike Evans is going to be favoured for that matchup. So, I think the Bucs cover, and I think if the Ravens win this game, they'll have to win with like a crazy offensive Lamar Jackson performance, and I think everyone will be talking about him on Tuesday if they win. But I'll go Bucs. I'm kind of secret fan of the Bucs this year. I'm so annoyed they lost that game to the Falcons the other day. It was so annoying. I know. Winning the division.
It's for the first time in a while, the NFC is probably the best conference in football, and it's nice to see all these teams in the NFC play really well. And the Bucs are one of them. We'll go over to. I'm interested to see how the running back room looks there as well, because we'll see what happens with Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving and Rashad White. You've got some weird thing going on there with the running back room, so we'll see how that pans out in this game. Okay, and then the last game, it's a 2 a.m. kickoff in the UK. This is a game that's exclusive to ESPN Plus. It's a weird Monday Night Football game. This it's on Sky, of course, but it's a lot of double header on ABC. This is a streaming only game, which is strange for a Monday night. The Cardinals host the Chargers. The Cardinals are 2.5 point favourites. So the Chargers are 2.5 point favourites on the road, which to me is strange because the Cardinals week to week are strange, but for what I've seen the Cardinals do compared to what I've seen the Chargers do, and how hurt the Chargers have been, I'm going to pick the Cardinals to well, I think they'll probably win, let alone cover the 2, come within the 2.5 point spread.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm going to pick the Cardinals again. AFC West biased, so I'm glad you picked the Cardinals too. So I didn't look too bad. But going back to our previous comment, this is going to be a weird game. This is just going to be a weird game. It's the Chargers. I think the Cardinals either play extremely well or they play terribly. every single week, it feels like. And the Chargers are currently your 6th seed. And if they lose this game, they're probably your 5 seed. If they win this game, they're probably your 5 seed. So they're kind of secretly playing really well. And with how bad the rest of the AFC is, they're setting themselves up for a playoff berth. But I just think the way that Kyler Murray's playing, the way the offense is playing, as long as the defense can just not give up loads of rushing yards, like 250 rushing yards, I think the Cardinals can win the game. So, yeah, I'll go Cardinals, but I'm not going to be staying up at 2 a.m. and watching this one, I'm afraid.
Yeah. The Chargers' defense has been a nice surprise there. They've actually played really well this year compared to what they have been in the last couple of years with Brandon Staley. So that's certainly been a nice surprise. And even though Herbert's not been great, it has been a very efficient Chargers offense, and that has certainly won them the games. But we'll see how they fare against better opposition. The schedule the second half of the year is terrible. In terms of they've got some hard games coming up. So we'll see how they fare. But they've certainly have got a chance of sneaking in a poor AFC. Okay, that is it for the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast this week. A big thank you to Liam for coming on, and a big thank you for you to making it the whole way through. I will see you with all the reaction from the third and final NFL London game.